The member from, opposition leader.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead. And after that, I think it's a member from Portland, Eastern. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the debate here has highlighted two things. One can import a construct which appears to be best practice from a regulatory standpoint and import it into Jamaica and pat yourself on the back that you're doing something wonderful. But when you look at the way this is being introduced into our economy and our society, it's clear that there are glaring omissions which are dangerous and should not have been overlooked. I wish to support what has been said by the member for St. Catherine Northwest. Concerns about consumer protection, the problem of gambling addiction, that the regulations are woefully inadequate in failing to address in any fulsome way, failing to have provisions in them that provide for training, the transfer of skills, for integration of these economic activities into the local economy, for making provision for ensuring that we don't outcompete with other local economic actors in the tourism industry outside of these facilities who will now be facing competition from within. The fact that we are really relying on market conditions to persuade investors to put housing for staff because there's a shortage of staff and they're using housing as a way of attracting staff, which is what has happened in the case of one of them in Western Hanover. Others are having to follow suit, but there's no policy from a regulatory point of view to require this. So, yeah. So we're going down the road again of opening this up essentially so it can, because Jamaicans will be permitted to gamble in here, those who have problems with managing their gambling habits, will providing revenue and profits to operators, will not be Jamaicans, those monies will flow to the country. And there's nothing in these regulations to prevent that happening. So, to my mind, we have a comprehensive regime coming here, but it's coming probably based on a model which is suitable from whence it came, but it's not suitable for our situation and our risks and our conditions. And we really ought to be using this opportunity to modify that model so as to make sure that this works for Jamaicans, works for our economy, protects our people from the problems that can arise from this activity. Madam Speaker, I also want to use this opportunity to call again for transparency around the fiscal regime that will govern these integrated resorts. When the law was amended a year or so ago, it provides for an ad hoc negotiation of a fiscal package with a particular investor. Something like that has happened in the bauxite and alumina industry over time. We once had a levy regime that applied to all. Subsequent to that, things were modified. Different tax arrangements applied to different producers of alumina and so on. If we're going down that route with these large investments, there should be transparency. There ought to be a requirement for what is ultimately negotiated and implemented as the tax regime for one of these investments to come to the House and be tabled, so we can all see what we're giving away as a cost for attracting that investment, to ensure that it is defensible and appropriate, and so that we can compare it with what happened to others who have made similar investments in the past or in the future. Having it done behind closed doors, negotiated within the government system, and signed off is fine for the investor, but the public has an interest in knowing what we are doing by way of fiscal generosity to attract these investments. And the absence of transparency is a weakness in our regime and should be corrected. So, Madam Speaker, we realize that the government is hanging a lot on this casino this casino attempt to bring investment through this channel. And, it will create some jobs. We hope it will create some local jobs. But the training, the transfer of skills, and all the other things that the member for North West St. Catherine spoke to eloquently, these things need to be put in place to ensure that this works for our people and our country. And it's a disappointment to me that that thinking hasn't informed the development of the regulations here, rather than just adopting what is no doubt a construct developed elsewhere, bringing it here and saying we're doing the gold standard. I don't think that's a gold standard. That's not a modern, progressive, and Jamaican-centered standard, and we should do better. Thank you.
The member from Portland Eastern, after which is the member from St. and South Eastern.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, in relation to the regulations, they are very